Welcome to Transform Now, the podcast brought to you by SS&C Blue Prism. Enterprise AI isn't just a tool, it's the heartbeat of smart organizations like yours, helping to reinvent work to deliver higher growth, more customers, and better experiences. Join us as we discover how AI-powered work orchestration and automation is making things better for everyone: customers, employees, shareholders, and most importantly, you. Let's get into the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Transform Now podcast. I'm your host, Michael Marchuk.
And I'm Brad Hairston.
And this is our weekly roundup of AI and automation news. And Brad, we've got the 3 plus a bonus for you again today. And as everyone knows, all of the links to these will be found in our show notes if you want to go check our work, which you probably do because there's a lot more in these articles that we can cover in the few minutes that we have on the podcast. So today we are going to start with an article from Digital Insurance, which I'm sure, Brad, you regularly read. So what is the article's titled, How AI and Automation Will Revolutionize Claims in 2025. So we've talked about this a little bit here and with other guests over the years about automation and AI changing the way insurance companies operate. What did you get out of this article?
Well, Michael, as you know, we have many insurance customers, many insurance customers, and they have been leveraging automation to change and transform claims processing for quite a while. The advent of Gen AI now gives them the ability to go much further. And so I love this article. It gives some really good, tangible examples of how that is taking shape. Some of the ones that I really liked include the automation of the verification of policyholder information, which is a very arduous and tedious activity. The article talked about insurers being able to rapidly analyze customer communications and detect issues before they escalate, and then respond to those reach outs by customers. By the way, we have a great use case that our company published just today with a Norwegian insurer who is using it in that way. It talks about AI having the ability to identify unusual patterns or discrepancies in claim submissions, which can, may indicate fraudulent behavior. So that's another really interesting one. It talks about predicting customer needs and personalizing, the recommendations back to that customer based on their history, based on lifestyle, based on the policy or the coverage options that they leverage. I think that's another good one. And then another one that just caught my attention was analyzing historical data and using algorithms to predict future claim trends so that they can anticipate the risk associated with those. So many really good use cases. I think many of our customers are exploring Gen AI in addition to their digital workers that they're already leveraging. They're looking at the combination to attack some of these things. And so I think we will continue to see more and more, use cases emerge. By the way, I also like the fact that it mentioned blockchain at the end because, blockchain, just like in the banks, blockchain has not taken hold in the insurance industry, but there's certainly opportunity for that to happen. And so it does mention that AI could be a facilitator to make that happen, just to increase the trust between insurers and policyholders so that there can be more direct transactions and that would involve blockchain. So I'm hopeful that happens. Blockchain is not really materialized the way we all thought it would in financial services, but maybe this will be the trick.
Maybe it will. So I thought you were going to zoom in on, there's a mention at the bottom of this article about AI-powered drones. for doing real-time analysis of damage, etc. And then just thinking of all of the movies that we've both watched related to AI-powered drones, I thought that was an interesting actual implication that we wouldn't have to worry about. So,
but I do one more thing. I do want to mention one of my favorite AI, and this has already been in play for many years, but I love the fact that many of the like auto insurers now employ AI. When you have a wreck, you can show a picture of your car, and through AI, they can assess the damage and they can make a claim. They can process it almost entirely in automated manner. So you can get, clearance to go and take it in and get it fixed, and sometimes no humans involved at all. And I've had that happen to me personally in the last year. So they're already, I think, pretty progressive. I think all these other examples we talked about are just additional ways that insurance companies, not just the car insurers, but the other types of insurance companies, I think that they're really going to benefit from it.
I would agree. So moving away from the insurance industry, which I know you're sad to do, but we have to move on to these other articles. We've got a very interesting one, and we've talked about this a number of times. In fact, you've had a podcast in the past with someone who really spoke specifically on the power implications of AI and generative AI. We've covered other stories about nuclear power plants coming online to support these data centers that are being built and whatnot. And a lot of this has to do with the chips that are being used currently to be able to power this whole AI revolution. They're very power hungry and requires lots of them. But as we kind of figure was going to happen at some point or another, somebody has thought up a new way of doing this. This is leveraging an application-specific integrated circuit, or ASIC, which is basically a hardware program that's attached to this whole LLM concept. So building LLM transformers into this hardware or a chip has resulted in some substantial gains. And this is an article we're going to cover from Tom's Hardware now. The article's titled Sohu AI Chip Claimed to Run Models 20 times faster and cheaper than NVIDIA's H100 GPUs.
Yeah.
Brad, what'd you get out of this article?
Well, first of all, I can guarantee you, I also do not subscribe to Tom's Hardware. Although this is a great article, maybe I should give it a better chance. So this is fascinating. So Etched has, I'm not an engineer. I don't think technically like you do, but I can wrap my brain around this. So they've basically address the issue that most of these AI accelerators are built to accommodate many different types of AI architectures, like neural networks and
as well as playing advanced games too. Remember that's what a GPU is originally for.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas this model, this particular product that they've developed it only accommodates transformer models. So by doing this, it's allowed more of the AI compute. It's allowed for a greater AI compute within the actual transistor, which means it's more efficient and it could be faster and more powerful than even what NVIDIA provides. So by being more focused on transformers, not trying to accommodate many different types of architectures, it makes sense that they would have this advantage. So in certain use cases, this could be, I think, a really powerful tool for companies that don't have the money to spend on NVIDIA servers, and who knows what Etched is going to charge for theirs once it's commercially viable. But maybe the most important thing or the most interesting thing about this article is the founder. He's a Harvard dropout, and he's in it, from what I can gather, he's in his early to mid 20s, and he looks like he's about 14 years old if you look at his profile on LinkedIn. So that to me really gave me a chuckle when I looked at that. But man, the guy's smart, and this is a really interesting space to play in. All the big tech companies are, as we've talked about many times, they are beholden to NVIDIA. NVIDIA is their only supplier. and they're paying exorbitant amounts of money to NVIDIA just to continue to build more and more data centers and fuel more and more AI. Someone like Etched could really come in there and make a difference. We'll see how it takes place.
Yep, I agree. And to give a context to two things I want to mention. One was about the chip itself. The processor, the chip itself has 80 billion transistors on this H100 NVIDIA thing, but only 3.3% of those are dedicated towards the capabilities of running the LLM piece of it. Whereas these chips that are being produced by Etched are really focused on 100% of that. So they're really dedicated more towards that LLM processing. So that's one part. The second part is regarding the founder. I know of a couple other founders back in the 80s that were also in their 20s. They founded a couple pretty big companies. One was called Microsoft, the other one was called Apple.
Yeah.
So I suspect, this is what happens when you're in your 20s and you have the light bulb moment. You're going to do great things. So we'll be looking forward to seeing what's coming out of Etched in the future here.
Give it up for the nerds. They still rule.
Exactly. All right, so I want to go to a blog now from Forrester, which was interesting because of some of the things that you and I have talked about. Certainly, I've talked about it quite a bit more because I tend to gravitate towards this topic. But I wanted to ask you more about it from this perspective. So the article, the blog is entitled "The Automation Paradox Strikes Again: Lessons from Woolworth's quote Amazon era productivity play." And this is a very recent article on Forrester that talked through a few different things, but a couple have sort of left both of us kind of nodding our heads. So what did you get out of this one?
Yeah, this one is, I think, a very significant warning to all companies that would say, if you look at the example from Woolworth and from Amazon, as they become more automated and they've leveraged AI in a more significant way, the employees are saying that their jobs have become more stressful, more scrutinized, more regimented. And Forrester says this is not just an isolated example. This is a global problem. They cite some research that would suggest that over about half of the global workforce is somewhere on the burnout spectrum, and 19%, which is called the red zone, are in high burnout and low engagement. So that's concerning. And, this is in the midst of us becoming more and more automated and more dependent on AI as a society. So something is amiss there. There's a metric mentioned at the end of the article that I found interesting. I'd not seen it before, but it's called the Artificial Intelligence Quotient, AIQ. And it's a metric designed to evaluate the proficiency and the readiness of individuals or organizations in adopting, understanding, and leveraging AI. It is the brainchild of Dr. Kai-Fu Lee, who's a renowned AI expert and an author. And Dr. Lee did he took this quotient, he developed some surveys, and he put it out there. And globally, only 14% of the people that have taken this survey have shown a high AIQ. Now that would align with what we're seeing from the Woolworth and the Amazon stories, which is whereas AI is ready and readily available and being put into use, most organizations and most people may not be ready for it. They don't understand it. They may not trust it. They haven't really received good, training and support from their supervisors on what this means to their jobs and how their jobs will change and how their measurements will change. And again, if you're an Amazon worker, you're feeling like every day it's getting harder and harder to do what you have done for years. That's not a good thing. So yeah, this is a concerning article. I think it aligns well with things that we've, for other speakers and such that we've had on the podcast who have come on to talk about this very subject. Companies have just got to be in tune with their employee base and how they feel about AI, what they understand about AI, and their willingness to use it and use it in the right way.
Yep. And one of the things that I thought was interesting too is some of the research they did on EX and CX. I love all the terms because we use them all so frequently with our acronyms, but employee experience and customer experience, and how they are interrelated. And part of the Forrester research indicated that when they asked people, they said 29% of the people they asked said that if they knew the employees of the company that they were shopping or buying from were treated poorly, 29% of them said I wouldn't buy from them anymore.
Yeah.
Also, you have issues that we've seen a number of times in the various, strikes that have gone on in various countries and companies related to rail strikes, port strikes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which then affect, it gets to the point where your employees are they don't strike just because they're upset. They strike when they're ready to light the place on fire, right? This is, we have got to make something change here because it's gotten so bad. So seeing that kind of thing really does then bring a light to it, but it also brings probably a negative light to the employer, who is, trying to do what they can to keep costs down, to run as lean as they can, to manage their outputs and their metrics as best as they can. But if they don't have this employee experience kind of metric in place, they're at risk of ruining their customer experience too. So interesting article, a lot of good insights in this one. So definitely recommend this one.
Yeah.
And finally, for our bonus, as I always have a bonus, LinkedIn had a great news article that came out here that showed an infographic, which I love infographics, from Live Data Technologies that talk about big banks and hiring. So the LinkedIn article is the title is "Big Banks Snap Up Tech Grads." So it shows how banking firms have been pulling in many new grads who are high tech related. No doubt because finance and fintech is becoming a really huge focus for these banks, especially some of these established banks. But that's not all who's hiring these tech companies, is it? Brad, tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, the big takeaway from this, while a higher percentage of tech grads, which includes computer science, software engineering, mathematics, data science, while a bigger percentage of them have landed their first job at banks, big tech companies are still the top hirers of tech grads. I mean, you look at this graphic and it's all the big tech players at the very top. Once you get below them, you do start to see like Capital One, you see JP Morgan Chase, you see B of A, but the big tech companies are still the top employers by a huge margin. It's not just a sliver. I mean, they are still grabbing the majority of the tech grads. And so, you can draw other conclusions from this, but that, basically just reaffirms that big tech is still grabbing them. The banks may be increasing their percentage, but they're still way behind. What I found really interesting is the fact that Databricks made the leaderboard. I mean, this is a very small and private company, and it's on the list of the top 25 employers for 2024 tech grads. And they're, like I said, they're a startup with, I think they have $80 billion, valuation. So that's not bad. Maybe that's enough money to go hire a bunch of people, but that's what I'm guessing. So I guess, it was interesting to see that obviously the big tech companies are pulling that in. The banks are pulling in from a financial perspective. Then we have a couple of extras in there. It's like Northrop Grumman and Boeing and whatever. So I'm guessing Lockheed. I guess sounds like defense would also be pulling in these high tech folks, and then Deloitte and some others for IBM IBM could be both consulting and technology. So bring these folks in to really help keep their businesses moving forward at the rate that they're expected to move forward. So very interesting to see where some of our new grads are going these days. Yeah, definitely is.
All right. Well, that's all the stories we have today. But every week we're sending out these new checks around on what's going on in our industry. So please join us for analysis of a few articles we're going to do next week. And of course, every week we have a great person who come and been talked to just to support our knowledge transfer to you over the years. And we help keep doing that. So join us next week, and we'll see you then. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Transform Now, the podcast from SS&C Blue Prism. You can find all of our episodes on your favorite podcast channel, as well as YouTube. To stay on top of the hottest topics in the world of enterprise AI, subscribe now. The future of work is here.